Do I have time to take Ron out right quick?
Everybody get your cameras on.
Yeah, anyone who's on the app, get your cameras on. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Brother Doug. I'm here with my brothers and sisters today. My sister Shoshana is right next to me. We got our brother Dennis with us and our sister Sally. And we are going to be reading our Genesis reading today. And if we have time, we might do a chapter of Job too. So I'm going to start us off in chapter 28 of Genesis, and we're going to be reading that. So let's see here. Let me go to, I wanted to go to my Kindle. For some reason, it's not showing my Kindle for whatever reason. That's kind of weird. Okay, whatever, I'll just use my sword. All right, usually my Kindle works, but for whatever reason, it's being stupid. All right, here we go. And Isaac called Jacob, and hold on, let me go to the Septuagint actually. Okay, yeah. And Isaac, having called for Jacob, Baruch him and charged him, saying, "You shall not take a wife of the daughters of the Canaanites." Okay. Rise and depart quickly into Mesopotamia, which is just another name for that region where you got the Chaldeans, Babylon. It's in that same region. To the house of Bethuel, the father of your mother, and take yourself there a wife of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. Okay, so they are still intermarrying here. We can kind of see that, but it's not like brother and sister. It's not like first cousins or whatever. So it's more or less.
It is cousins.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that would have been like a second cousin type of situation there.
No, her mother's brother.
Okay.
Children are her cousins.
Okay. All right. So I'm correct there.
Or his mother's brothers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, his mother's
brother's children
so
are his
basically,
cousins.
He would be taking the daughter of his uncle, basically, is essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
And may my Elohim Baruch you, this is probably in the Masoretic text, would probably say Al Shaddai or whatever. A lot of times it says Al Shaddai, it just says my Elohim in the Septuagint. And may my Elohim barak you and increase you and multiply you, and you shall become gatherings of nations. And may he give you the baraka of my father Abraham, even to you and to your seed after you, to inherit the land of your sojourning, which Elohim gave to Abraham. And so Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went into Mesopotamia to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. So we're already seeing a connection between Mesopotamia and Assyria. So we're seeing that that's like the same region, that's the same area over there. And so let's see here. So he went into Mesopotamia to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. So now he's going into his uncle's house. And Esau saw that Isaac Baruch Jacob and sent him away to Mesopotamia of Syria, as he Baruch him to take to himself a wife there, and that he charged him, saying, "You shall not take a wife of the daughters of the Canaanites." And Jacob hearkened to his father and his brother and went to Mesopotamia of Syria. And Esau, having seen that the daughters of Canaan were evil before his father Isaac. So here we go, we're getting some context here. This is spite here we're starting to see. Okay, so yeah, he notices that it wouldn't please his dad and his mom to take a Canaanite. Esau went to Yishmael and took Maleth, the daughter of Yishmael, the son of Abram, the sister of Nabioth, a wife, in addition to his other wives. Now, we're going to see here what type of woman that possibly is, because Yishmael also, you got to realize too, Yishmael is a Mitzrite. So, again, there might be some corruption in that line. So let's see here, Genesis 28:10, and Jacob went forth from the well of the oath. It's interesting, well of the oath, and departed in Karhan, or probably say Haran in the Masoretic, and came to a certain place and slept there, for the sun had gone down. Interesting. That's a little something to note there. He's going to rest at the time that the sun is going down. Interesting. This is before we even get Leviticus 23:32, mind you. So this is even before Yahuwah even tells them verbatim in the Torah from evening to evening. So there's already this concept. The time of rest is sunset. And he took one of the stones of the place, and it put it at his head, and lay down to sleep in that place. And dreamed. Here we go. Yeah, so now we're about to see Jacob's ladder. And dreamed, and behold, a ladder fixed on the earth, whose top reached to heaven. It's kind of like a opposite of the Tower of Babel. This is like a righteous gateway to heaven. So it's kind of like the what you would call like the antithesis of the Tower of Babel. And the angels of Elohim ascended and descended on it. And Yahuwah stood upon it and said, I am the Elohim of your father Abraham and the Elohim of Isaac. Fear not, the land on which you lies, to you will I give it, and to your seed. And your seed shall be as the sand of the earth, and it shall spread abroad to the sea, and to the south, and to the north, and to the east. And in you and your seed shall all the tribes of the earth be Baruch. So now we have, he's given him basically the same covenant he gave to Abraham and to Isaac. So he's going to say through your seed, just like he said to Abraham, all the tribes of the earth will be Baruch. And behold, I am with you to preserve you continually in all the way. Now, continually a lot of times is like, it's kind of the same terminology as perpetual, like forever. In all the way wherein you shall go, I will bring you back to this land, for I will not desert you until I have done all that I have said to you. And Jacob awakened out of his sleep and said, Yahuwah is in this place, and I knew it not. I'm just curious if the Masoretic text actually puts Yahuwah there. Okay, all right, cool. All right. And he was afraid and said, how fearful is this place? This is none other than the house of Elohim. And this is the gate of heaven. Interesting. So I'm starting to think here a little bit, possibly Nimrod was trying to create a counterfeit to this true gateway to heaven. I'm starting to think the Nimrod probably got some knowledge from elsewhere, and that's what he was trying to do with the Tower of Babel. And Jacob rose up in the morning and took the stone he had laid there by his head, and he set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. Wow, so now he's making an altar to Yahuwah here. Okay, and he called the name of that place the House of Elohim. And the name of the city before was Ulam Luz. Interesting, Ulam Luz. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if Yahuwah Elohim will be with me and guard me throughout on this journey on which I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on. This kind of reminds me of what Yahusha says. That don't worry about it. Yahuwah's got your necessities. Don't be worried day by day what you may eat and what you might drink. So that's kind of a cool comparison I see here in Genesis 28:20. This is kind of like hinting to what Yahusha says later on in the Brit. And bring me back in safety to the house of my father, then shall Yahuwah be for a Elohim to me. Yeah, that goes back to the new covenant there too. they shall be my people, and I shall be to them a Elohim. Yes, that's kind of interesting there. And this stone which I've set up for a pillar shall be to me a house of Elohim, and of all whosoever you shall give me, I will tithe a tenth for you. Now notice at this time period, they were able to actually tithe it directly to the Father. There was no, Levitical system. They could actually directly tithe to Yahuwah, but it was like to Yahuwah. I want to emphasize that. It was not to another man. He's like actually giving it directly to the Father, just like Abraham gave it directly to Melchizedek, aka Yahusha. He was not giving it to a mortal man. So that's just something to take note there. I know some of our brothers and sisters want to use this as a doctrine that since we're not in the Levitical priesthood, we're to tithe to one another now. No. He's tithing directly to Yahuwah is the context in the last verse of this chapter. He's not tithing to a human. So anyway, that was a pretty interesting chapter. I'm going to leave some time since now we got our full sessions now. We're not restrained. We can kind of dissect this chapter, see if there's any differences, any thoughts, questions. So go ahead. Anyone have anything they would like to add or?
I was just wondering how that ladder looked.
Yeah, I don't know.
The angels coming up and down.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it would look like too. I know the Freemasons, they have an idea what it looks like, but they kind of modernize it and just turn it into like a regular physical ladder. They use it and they twist Jacob's ladder into something else in Freemasonry. But that's a whole nother topic. They try to twist into something else. Trying to think, like, I don't know if it was a physical ladder more or less than a gateway. The Septuagint seems to allude that it was like a portal or something. Like it was like almost kind of like we see in the science fiction stuff, like where you got portals in the sky and they can go through the stargates and stuff like that. It was probably that's what the Stargate really is a gateway from heaven to earth, the heavenly realm to earth. Yeah. It's not a gateway to other planets. It's a gateway from Yahuwah's abode to our abode because of the veil. Which anyone that's interested, you can find the veil being referenced in the book of Isaiah when it talks about may you rend the heavens and come down. So that this idea that after sin, Yahuwah's realm and our realm were completely separate, and we can't see the heavenly realm. The only way we can see it is for our eyes to be opened by the Father. And actually, Elisha prayed that his servant would see it when they were being surrounded by the earthly enemies. He asked Yahuwah to open his servant's eyes, and I think it's in 1 Kings, and his servant's eyes saw the chariots of fire out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, what is all that? And he saw what was in the heavens that we can't see. We can't even see the angels with the chariots of fire and all that. That's behind the veil. But once Yahuwah takes away the veil, we can actually see what's actually in the heavens. So I think more or less as a gateway would be my assumption on Jacob's ladder. I don't think it's a physical ladder like we've been taught. I see a lot of connections between the Tower of Babel and what this chapter was talking about, but I see this as being a righteous gateway that just he was seeing in a dream what Yahuwah was showing him about the angels. And I think the point of the dream, I think Yahuwah was giving him was to show him that this is Yahuwah's house. Mm-hmm. This is where Yahuwah's abode is, and he's seeing Yahuwah's messengers, heavenly messengers, going up and down in that portal, like right above where he's laying his head in a dream. So he's kind of, I think Yahuwah just showed him that to show him this is where the Most High is. And that I think that was the point of why Yahuwah gave him that dream, and to kind of give him that covenant too, earlier on in the chapter. Trying to see here if there was anything I took. I mean, of course, he goes, before that, he goes to Laban to find himself a wife who we said, is the daughter of his uncle. So, again, so that there's kind of two compartments to this chapter we just read. We have the Jacob's Ladder, and then before that, we have him going to find a wife in Mesopotamia. So that's all I really could take away from it. I noticed differences already just from my memory from how the Masoretic text reads here. I think in verse 3 of this chapter, it said Al Shaddai, like I said before. And instead of that, you have my Elohim. So I found that was interesting. So
He set up his stone.
Yeah.
At the end, he said, "This shall be Yahuwah's house."
Yeah, I think that was like supposed to be like a memorial, like almost like an altar, because he anointed it with oil. It was almost like that's where he would probably, sacrifice to the Father, and
Give a tenth of all he has.
Yeah, a tenth of all his has. So his tithes would be given to the Father, and probably the Father would consume it. Is what I think how he would be able to directly give it to the Father. Is Yahuwah would consume it, since Yahuwah is an all-consuming fire. He would probably consume it up. And so let's see, is there anything else I got from this? I mean, another difference is Mesopotamia again, rather than how
his pillow stone that he used to set up as Yahuwah's house. That headstone that he laid his head on eventually made it to the British Isles. And
Isn't that
they coronate all the kings on the chair. It's inside the chair.
Stone of Destiny.
Stone of Destiny, exactly. I saw a movie about the Stone of Destiny just a couple of days ago. And it was a true story about a young man in his early 20s named Ian Hamilton, and he got a group together. There was 3 guys and 1 girl, and they stole it from England and brought it back to Scotland. And it is now in Scotland on loan until they coronate one of the princes, probably William.
Isn't that the stone isn't that the one they also call the Stone of Scone?
Yeah.
I think it's also called Leophil.
Leophil. Yeah, either way you spell it, it's
Right.
both ends say the same. Leophil.
So I feel like this chapter gave us a cliffhanger with Esau and that wife.
Laifei.
Yeah. What I noticed too about this chapter I took away was it's kind of a cliffhanger with what happens with Esau when he takes Ishmael's daughter. So you kind of don't get if that was righteous or not, because we really don't know. I would have to go to see and see who Ishmael marries. I know he has at least one regular Egyptian wife. I don't know if that was a Nephilim woman or not, so I would have to kind of backtrack and see. So I'm just curious. Like, it's kind of a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, how does his parents see that? Because they didn't mention he couldn't marry the Egyptians technically, so that's kind of like a loophole. And I mean, Ishmael is part of his lineage because Ishmael is the son of Abraham. So he might be okay doing that unless it's one of the Egyptian women that would have been from the same lineage as the Philistines, because the Philistines actually come from Mitzrayim, the person. So that's where it gets tricky. It gets a little tricky when you read Genesis 10, and not all the Egyptians were pure. You had some of them that a certain sect of the lineage of Mitzrayim goes into the Philistines directly. So that's where I'd be curious to see later on as we read later chapters what happens with Esau and the wives he takes. I know he also takes later on Hittite women and stuff like that. So I would be curious to see if this was actually tube in the eyes of the father that he took the Egyptian wife. So I would be interested to see that. So that's what I meant like by cliffhanger there. You don't really know because it kind of just glosses over it. Kind of just like, okay, he took a wife that was a daughter of Ishmael, which Ishmael is a Mitzrite, and just kind of goes to Jacob's dream. So
Well, that was in addition to the two Canaanite wives he
Yeah.
had. I think he had a Canaanite wife and a Hittite wife. That's what it
yeah,
was.
I think we read that last time. That was in I think it was. Yeah, we did a cross reference in the last study. You guys can look up. It's Genesis chapter 27. We did that a couple Shabbats ago. I think we don't get that info about his other two wives until Genesis 34, if I remember correctly. So we'll see that later on because we cross-referenced that last time, the Genesis 30, chapter 34. So that's actually later on. They tell you that he had Canaanite wives. Yeah. So yeah. But let's see here. I was just looking over this. So the major differences I see here is Septuagint says, well, the oath, they give you more of a meaning for some of the name of these places rather than just the name. And so I noticed there was like some differences with the name of the places, like Mesopotamia, rather than Padan Aram, which sometimes they'll say Padan Aram instead of Mesopotamia of Syria, in the Masoretic. So I'm just noticing that. But other than that, that's all I really have to say. I think that's pretty much it about this chapter. See here. So I think unless anyone else has anything to add, I think we're going to stop the recording here. We're going to start a new one, and we'll read a chapter of Job. So unless anyone else have anything to add, Sister Sally, Brother Dennis, I think we might have Brother Tobiah just joined us, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Shalom, Brother Tobiah. We just read Genesis 28 on our recording, so we just kind of dived into that. We're about to read one chapter in the book of Job. So, let's see here. Yeah, that's all I think we pretty much dissected this chapter as much as possible. So yeah, I think, all right. Well, thank you for joining us, viewers and listeners. Please stay tuned. We're going to immediately jump into Job chapter 8, so please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Shalom.
Shalom.